Hey everyone, I'm Brandon and this is my 2004 Dodge Viper SRT10 with its 12-year-old tires, but today that's going to change. Back in 2018 when I bought this Viper, the tires on it had the date of 2008, which means the tires are at least 10 years old at the time. And I was kind of worried about that. I figured I would have to buy some tires right away. But having watched an episode of Jay Leno's Garage, he's driving around an old Lamborghini LM002 with 25-year-old tires on it. And it wasn't the worst thing in the world, especially with those tires being a much older compound, especially these are made in 2008. You know, those other Lamborghini tires are made 25 years ago with much cruder technology. I figured that we could probably get a little bit of road life out of these on this Viper, though I haven't really been able to fall in love with the car as much as I would like to, let's say, because of course driving around on, at this point, 12-year-old stones won't let the car perform as well as it's supposed to. I have to take it very easy on ramps and off ramps, you know, taking off in the rain, or if it's cold outside, the car has all the power and no traction. So you have to drive it very, very carefully, and especially for a car that I drive as much as this Viper, I would like to be able to drive it as normally as possible. So today we're going to go and have these tires changed and see what they look like, and really see how this car changes in performance with these new Michelin tires on it. So like any other exotic sports car, a lot of the maintenance you would figure is going to be very, very expensive. When I had originally purchased this, I went in for the oil changes and all the fluid flushes and everything just to get a good baseline. And then, you know, that was about $2,500 in work. And then I had to eventually change the spark plugs and the serpentine belt and a pulley. But surprisingly, not everything was super, super expensive. These tires are about $1,400 for the set, which compared to a lot of other exotic cars is pretty reasonable, I would say. Discount Tire locally here in the Chicago area had a pretty good deal on them last week, so I was able to get them installed for about $1,600, and I think that it's going to be a fair deal, especially for the difference in driving that it's going to make for this Viper. Right now it's about 40 degrees outside, and it's a little bit cooler than I would normally drive the Viper. I usually don't want to take it out when it's under 50 degrees, especially because the tires are so old right now. But today was a perfect example of why we need to get some new tires, because driving it around when it's really cold gives the car a little more power, and it also takes away a whole lot of traction from the tires when the tires are cold. So the tires being so old, being cold, yeah, they're not sticking to the ground really well. However, this car is very easily controlled under the power. I'm not, I mean, I could make the tires spin if I want to, but it's also very easy to just drive it like a regular car. One of the novel aspects of having tires this old is that the little TPMS sensors are probably dead or dying, because consistently as I drive, the car tells me that I have low tire pressure, which in fact it is not. So I'm taking the Viper to the local Discount Tire shop, and I usually use them. I've only not used them one time. I know a lot of Viper guys, they'll have like a local special smaller guy shop that they like to take their Vipers to. I honestly don't have any Viper friends, so I don't have any contacts about where I should take my Viper for particular services or anything that I can't do myself. So like I can't put on my own tires, so I have to take it to a tire shop. Fortunately enough, the previous 2 owners were so graciously as to leave me with some most excellently curbed wheels, so I'm not too worried about the rims getting slightly messed up on the edges or anything like that, like I would be worried about if they were brand new. I will be getting the rims fixed eventually. Might even try to do those myself. I remember on the Challenger, I was taking a particular route on the expressway every morning, and there was a very specific cut in the road, and I would go over this cut, you know, probably 55, 60 miles an hour, and it felt like I was hitting a wall, and the dashboard would make like a creaking noise, and I hated it, and I would like try to hit this line in different ways and stuff. And then I had to buy some new tires the next season. And so I bought some new tires, and it completely changed how I was hitting this bump. So I'm really excited to see how this car handles these roads over here, because over here on this particular road, there's a lot of cracks in it. There's some bumps that we're going over, a lot of. I'm sure you guys can see in the video here how many times we're bouncing up and down. And the Viper, it's a stiff suspension, it's a very stiff frame, and so you could feel everything as you're going over it, especially with these very old tires. So I'm really excited to see how the new tires are going to affect the ride, especially with like the softness of going over some of these little like less harsh bumps that I could feel as we're just driving down the road here. This is the first car I've had where the front tires and the rear tires were totally different sizes, and I love that idea because it's such a unique thing to like exotic cars and sports cars, you know, or old muscle cars, things like that. It is a performance thing, and I love it so much because it's so specialized, and I love when things are specialized, you know, built for purpose. It's really, really cool, and the size of these things are just insane. Hopefully we'll be able to get a look at them when we're at the tire shop, you know, when they're taking them on and off the car. That's going to be a really exciting thing to see. So here we are at the local discount tire, and we're just waiting for our appointment to go inside. This is going to be it's going to be pretty good because they're going to let me drive the Viper into the garage, probably because of the quarantining thing right now. They don't want to get in people's cars, but that'll be good since I don't like people driving my cars. I took my air caps off, which I always do before I have my tires changed or anything like that. And especially with these, because, you know, obviously these have the little Fangs logo on them, but these in particular have this little O-ring inside of here, and it kind of gets stuck to the valve stem and often falls out. So if you're a person who doesn't know about these little O-rings, you know, you're going to lose these things, and I don't really want to have to go and source out these guys. So I always make sure that I take these off. And then, you know, I don't want to lose these air caps either. All right, here we go. I'm going to go into the garage. Fortunately, we got this nice giant GMC Envoy in our way. Oh no, it's a Yukon. Good. Too hard. Look at this car is here getting his tires filled up. All right, here we are. We are going to be leaving the tire shop with 4 brand new tires. Whoa, they are slippery. So I can already feel the ride height is different. This is really funny. Even just sitting here in the car, obviously the tires are still capsulated from being brand new, so that's going to have to wear off. But we'll see how the smoothness goes. That's going to be really interesting. Yeah, they're still really slippery. Very easy to spin the tires right now. But I don't feel as much of the road. I don't feel like I'm driving over a bunch of gravel or anything like that. The car is running really smooth. It feels really nice. The guys over there at the shop, they were loving it, of course, asking me a few questions about everything. I opened the hood for them to see the engine. They're total car guys, so they were really digging it and talking about other cars and stuff, and knew a fair bit of information about the Viper, which is always awesome. The Viper is very much of a celebrity status. It's crazy how just changing those tires, I feel higher in this car, and it's got to be millimeters of rubber, and it's changed the way the car is riding right now. Really awesome. I feel like it's a first experience all over again. How different a set of tires can make a car drive around. You know, those old tires, they were probably hard as rocks. These tires are brand new now, more modern compound. And we're gonna go over some tracks right now. We're really gonna be able to test out how well these tires are gonna absorb some of the road. Wow, huge difference. Totally worth the money. Get a sports car, make sure you get the right tires on it. It's very important apparently. The ride on this, once these tires break in, it's probably going to be like none other. I haven't experienced this car with new tires. I've been driving them around on those 2008. Wow, even that bump is usually like horrible bump for this car to hit, and going over it, it just absorbed it all. Maybe the tires were inflated to the wrong pressure too. They said that this car is recommended at 29 pounds of pressure in the tires, which is insanely low for me to even think about. I know the Challenger is in the like 30 something, and then having this at 29 PSI, this is really low, but maybe that's what it needed. You know, maybe that's recommended, and maybe maybe they were just too high in the other car. I had the TPMS sensors changed. Car still says low tire pressure, so hopefully that wasn't a $240 waste of money. Yeah, tires feel great. They smooth down the road. I'm sure the traction is going to be awesome. It looked hilarious having the tires stacked up on top of each other. Obviously I'm quite tall, so it wasn't as tall as me, but some of the guys that were working in the shop were a little bit shorter, and they could have hid behind the 4 tires stacked up comedically. All right, so we're gonna finish off the story here. You remember 2 seconds ago, and I said I had the TPMS sensors changed, so hopefully that wasn't a $240 waste of money. Well, let me tell you. So apparently, when I got the tires changed on the Viper, they replaced the TPMS sensors, and it was like $240 or something. And I was really worried about being a waste of money because the tire light is still on, and was still on. So what I had to do was I called them up, asked them what the deal was, and they looked into it. They said that that was a dealer-only programming job. So the dealer is the only one who has the proper equipment to program the tires for the Viper and the Prowler. You know, you need that Chrysler gear. So we go over to the dealer, and after waiting for 2 hours in the waiting room, they come out and they tell me that the sensors are bad, they're probably old, and they need to be changed. I said, they're brand new. They said, well, that's weird because we can only program the front ones. So I said, yeah, that's super weird because all 4 of them are brand new. And they're like, well, we got to change the back ones because they're not working. I'm like, well, that's weird because you could program the front ones, so you should be able to program the back ones. And they said, well, we got to change them. And I'm like, we're not changing them. So I waited a couple of days and I went back to Discount Tire and I talked to them, and they said that the back sensors were not set for this particular car. So the front ones were programmed, so they had like this little wireless programmer. They went to the back tires, they programmed them to the same frequency or whatever as the front ones. So then go back to the dealer, tell them what happened. Oh yes, I forgot to mention, I had to pay for that first experience when they weren't programmed. They said, well, we did the work, even though it nothing happened, you still owe us $160. So I paid them $160. Thankfully, Discount Tires was so cool as to refund me that money because they should have known that. So now I go back to the dealer and they say that we don't want anything to do with the Viper because you have aftermarket wheel sensors on your car. And I said, look, Discount Tires assures me that they should be programmable now, and if you guys could program, that would be great. If you can't, you know, whatever. So the manager there said, if we can't reprogram them, we'll give you back half your money. If we can, we won't charge, you know, obviously we're not going to charge you anything. Cool. Hour goes by, they can't reprogram the back ones, so they're going to send me a check, and as of now, that was almost a month ago, and I have not received my check. So, lesson here, if you're getting TPMS sensors put in the Viper, specific, I don't know, maybe it's other Vipers, this is a Generation 3, they need to be Mopar sensors because they need to go through this like magnetic programming process, and it's a giant ordeal and it's really stupid. So if you're going to do that, make sure you get Mopar parts. So conclusion here, next time I change the tires on this car, I will have those sensors changed to Mopar sensors, because although it's not super annoying because there's not a big light on the dash, it's just on the little LCD screen here, it would be nice to know if I have a flat tire or low air pressure, because there's no spare in this car and I'll kind of just be stuck out somewhere waiting for AAA or something. So basically that's the whole story. I've been driving this Viper with these new tires for probably a couple months now, and the weather's warmed up, and it's a totally new driving experience. The tires are super grippy. The acceleration is completely different now, and the balance of the car is so much nicer, and the road feels so much smoother too, which is pretty awesome. So definitely make sure you get newer compound tires on your sports cars, and make sure that you consult a professional before you put any aftermarket parts on your car, especially something as dumb as requiring a special dealer programming computer. So we'll see you guys next time in another adventure with the Dodge Viper.